Welcome to this week's episode of The Art of Authenticity. I'm Laura Coe, your host, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. I have Bryan Reeves. Yep, if you've been listening for a long time, that name will sound familiar. He's been on twice. This is his third time. Check out the old episodes if you'd like to learn more about some of the things we reference in this episode. Today, Bryan is coming in to share his latest work, Choose Her Every Day or Leave Her, a guide for your journey through the transformational fires of love and intimacy. Bryan and I dive into what this is. It's 7 years worth of works that he has put out to millions and millions and millions of people who follow him. If you haven't checked him out, bryanreeves.com. And this book is filled with the stories, the insights, the practical tools, the secrets to helping you on your journey to a thriving relationship in love and intimacy. So you should check out this book. It is filled with just incredible insights over many, many years. Bryan is a life and relationship insight ninja. He's just a great guy. I adore him. I'm so grateful he came on again. And I know you're going to enjoy this show filled with conversations around masculine, feminine energies, what it means to be an intimate relationship, why so many people struggle with intimacy, with love. We all want to know the answers. Tune in, listen, let me know if you want more information. bryanreeves.com. You can get the book. You can also see everything on my site, lauraco.com. Thanks again. Welcome to this week's episode of The Art of Authenticity. Thank you guys for joining us. I am so excited to have Bryan Reeves back on the show. Hey, Bryan, how's it going?
Hi, Laura. It's going really well. I'm really happy to be here doing this with you again. I always love talking with you.
I love having you on. This is I think our third round.
I think it's our third. Yes, that's right.
So anybody who hasn't checked out the previous episodes, please go back, listen. Bryan's one of my absolute favorite people. He talks about masculine, feminine energies. We're going to hit on that today, but the other episodes, you went into some deep dives, so people can check that out. So Bryan's coming out with his next book, Choose Her Every Day or Leave Her. I love it, right? I love that title. Like, it's such a provocative idea. We're going to get into that. We're going to jump into it. It's a bunch of essays over 7 years, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That he's been building. If you haven't checked out his work, we'll have the information on his website available after the show in the show notes. But there's so many great pieces here, Bryan. I said before we jumped on, but I don't even know where to start. I feel like I'm not even doing justice, but I'm going to jump in, get as much information as I can out of you in the hour for all the listeners. Yeah. But you guys should buy the book.
Squeeze me, juice me. Just juice me. We're going to juice me for an hour. See what kind of juice we can get out. I'm in.
I'm serious. I was like, oh, I want that one too. I don't know how many we can get through, but if I don't get through them all, you guys, you can check it out. They're small essays that he's released for the last 7 years, and they're just filled with gems. So,
thank you.
I guess, Bryan, the first thing I wanted to see if you would do quickly for the audience that isn't familiar with you, who hasn't seen your work, the masculine to feminine energy thing. Like, I'm familiar, you've talked about it a lot, but maybe you could just do a quick overview, what you mean by that, so we can take liberties as we move forward.
Yeah, good. No, I think that's an important disclaimer, because I do talk a lot about masculine and feminine energies, and it's really important to me that people understand. By masculine, I don't mean man, and by feminine, I do not mean woman. When I was younger, I'm 46 now, and when I was in my mid 20s, I was just getting out of the military. At 26, I got out of the United States Air Force. I'd been a captain, and I'd been in the military for basically 10 years. And I was so disconnected from my body. I was just a head without a body, basically. And I think this is something that a lot of men and women experience in our culture. But certainly if you have a military kind of experience, like, it takes what culture does already, which is to disconnect us from what I would say is our feminine capacity, man or woman or non-binary, whatever it is, just our feminine capacity to feel, to be whatever is arising in the moment through our emotions, our feelings, our to be connected to our bodies.
Mhm.
And then I tried to do intimate relationship in that from that place. And Laura, it was a disaster. It was not just one disaster, but a series of disasters. Because you could say one way you could say it, a frame, and this is the masculine feminine frame that I didn't. I it was another 10 years before someone started pointing this out to me that
Mhm.
this even existed. But essentially, I was all head, no body, trying to do intimacy with. In my case, I'm attracted to women. To do intimacy with women who who tended to be very connected to their bodies, very expressive emotionally, whether that meant, the capacity for anger, for joy, for great empathy, great sadness, all of these feelings. But here I was so disconnected from that aspect of myself that I rejected it in them as well.
Mm.
So I was choosing partners who showed up with a lot of feminine capacity and connection to their feminine energy because I needed it for myself. I was so disconnected from my own feminine capacity that naturally, like in seeking wholeness, I would choose partners who would bring that into my experience. But because I was denying it in myself, naturally, then, unexamined, not really, completely unconscious of what I was doing, I would deny it in them also. It
Mhm.
was a shit show. It
And
was a total shit show.
when you say deny it in them, what does that mean in real life? Like, just shut it down, tell them they're crazy?
Yeah, exactly. Shut it down. You have no right to be angry. You have no right to be upset. You have no right to have big feelings. I remember I've worked with women in my coaching practice who've similarly who've struggled with their emotionality, and I've heard stories of their fathers when they were young girls, like sitting at the dinner table, and they would laugh and giggle and be expressive, and the father would get angry
Mm. Mhm.
because they're laughing, they're
Mm.
expressing joy. He would get angry, tell him to, stop giggling, stop fucking giggling. Like telling a little girl, a little boy for that matter, to basically stop having emotions,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I grew
So,
up like that. I had a father who would just, I mean, he would snap and go, "Stop
mm,
that, stop that, stop that." And it was like nails on chalkboard to him. And then the
yeah,
grandkids came, my son and my brother's kids, "Stop, stop." And you just watch him get
amazing.
viscerally uncomfortable, right? With any displays that were louder or bigger, not in control.
Yes,
Yeah.
not in control. That's right. And that's so when I talk about masculine and feminine energies, I'm talking about first and foremost the masculine and feminine energies in every individual human being and our relationship to them. And secondary then how we express that through relationship with another human
Mhm.
being, right?
Mhm.
So, as within, without. If we aren't comfortable with our feminine energy in our own bodies, how the hell are we going to be comfortable with the feminine energy emanating from the partner we choose?
Mm.
We're not.
Right. So if we're not comfortable with the feelings arising within us, allowing ourselves to have the bigger emotions, allowing ourselves to laugh and
Exactly.
sing and experience all the array of it, then when the other person, it mirrors back our own discomfort.
Exactly. We're going to want to shut that down. It
Yeah.
won't feel safe even.
Yeah.
And so it's a real tragedy and it hurts everybody. Everybody
Mhm.
suffers in that. I feel sometimes like as men, especially, we've been set up to fail in intimacy. This book, Choose Her Every Day or Leave Her. There's about 60 essays in this book that really take the reader through my own journey of first. I mean, the first chapter is the title of it is No One Ever Taught Me How to Be a Man.
Yeah.
That's the first chapter. And in the first few paragraphs, what I'm also describing is how misogyny was cooked into my thinking as a child. And not just misogyny against women, but I mean misogyny against all things feminine, including my own body.
Yeah.
including my own emotions. Boys don't cry. Don't be a pussy.
Right.
These win at all cost. It doesn't matter what you feel. You get on that field and you chase that ball, stupid ass ball. You chase that ball. I don't care if you have to break your head. You chase that ball like football. You pound your body, but you get that ball over the goddamn end zone line.
Yeah.
I don't care who you have to hurt, including yourself. Like
Right.
these are the messages that boys grow
Yeah.
up with, and then somehow we're supposed to do intimacy with another human being who actually, as our complement, is going to naturally want to express a lot of feelings and aliveness. And I mean, that's what relationship helps us experience, is aliveness and vitality and joy and sadness, all the feels. But then we want to shut it down because it doesn't feel safe. I mean, again,
Yeah.
we're set up to fail. It's a
Yeah.
real tragedy.
No, it's this just so resonates with me. Like my son was 2 or 3 years old and he had a freak out. We're sitting in my bathroom. And
Mm,
I just remember this visceral rising up in me that I had been taught, shut it down, shut it down. It's got to stop. And I was
mm,
like, oh, can't do
mhm.
that. Don't want to do that. This is before I got into all of this work and worked on myself, but it was the beginning of it for me. Like, I was like, wow, look at how uncomfortable I am that he's having a
Yeah,
normative experience of like a 3-year-old just screaming his head off. He's going to
yeah,
stop,
yeah, yeah,
but I don't need to stop him, right? Prematurely. I don't need to create a boundary around that expression. It's energy. It's going to move through. Then
yeah.
he'll calm down and he needs love. He needs
Right.
space. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know it's it's rough. So thanks for doing that and thanks for that beautiful explanation. You've done this 7, all these essays over all these years. Why
Mhm.
now? Why release this book now?
It's a great
Explaining
question.
the title. What does
Yeah.
this all mean to you at this particular moment?
Yeah, this book is a capstone of the work that I've done for the last, I mean, professionally for the last 7 or 8 years and working with couples, but just personally the work that I've done for the last 20 years, 25 years. This book is a capstone to that journey, to that body of work, if you will. Um, I'm moving more in the direction now of working with men, really helping men. I think women are in general 20 to 30, 20 to 50 years ahead of men when it comes to sort of personal growth and development. I think women are just, it's just, you've had to. It's sort of the nature of the pendulum swinging away from oppression towards expression. But men, we haven't had to do this work. It's, it's been our world largely for forever. And now
Mhm.
through a lot of just the societal pressures, the societal change that's happening, more and more men are coming to the realization that we can't get away with our our adolescent behavior like we used to. The transparency of the internet, the fact that more and more women are stepping into leadership roles and are learning about boundaries and learning to self-care, and women have more access to their own resources and their own influence. They don't need men. We aren't needed like we used to be needed. And so anyway, as more and more men are waking up and going, oh shit, something's not working, I need help, I need support. I and other men I'm stepping more into the role of helping men find that support and do that work. And so this book is, it feels really good to have this book out there because all of these words, all of these stories that I tell in here, and so many actual practices and tools and the people things people can do, language tools that they can use to communicate well, navigate conflict, even navigate jealousy, things like this. um, it's all in this book. And this is really, as I said, like a capstone. It's like my master work of the last, 7 to 20 years of my life, that now that that's out, now I can move on and begin and really step powerfully into this next phase of my own journey, as a both as a coach and a teacher myself, but also just as a man always evolving
Yeah.
and learning and growing myself.
Well, I've always appreciated you because I do think more men stepping up who are like you. I mean, whenever I describe you coming on the show, it's like he's a total dude, but he's like talking
Mm.
about feelings and relationships and intimacy. And it's like there's not a lot of
Uh-huh.
people
Yeah.
like that, right? Who are willing. There's men who have like a connection to themselves and their emotions
Uh,
and care about these things, but it's almost like that's not cool to talk about in culture.
yeah.
So I love that you
Yeah.
just fly forward with it and give other men the opportunity to get the space to talk about it within themselves, you know?
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And
Just to, I am just a dude. I have a deep spirituality, a deep spiritual practice, and but I'm also just a dude, I still struggle with emotions. I still feel that part of me that I'm watching a movie with my lady and I'm starting to get emotional, and I feel the part of me that tenses up, that says, mm-mm, don't cry. It's not safe. It's not safe. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't let her see it. And it's still I want to say effort, but the irony is it's a relaxing of effort to allow
Mhm.
myself to feel that is required, that I'm in the practice of, and it ain't easy for me. I'm still growing, evolving, changing, and big time props, respect, appreciation to my partner Sylvie for being a partner with me on this journey, because it's through her own mastery and her own practice of being emotional and allowing herself to cry almost daily that um, has helped me access those parts of me even more as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to say, I'd probably take a little liberty here in calling you a dude. I mean, this, I say that with total respect. You've been a mentor to me. Your breadth of information is endless. The amount of work you've done for others within yourself. But what I just want to say to the audience, and I know you know this, but the, it's like the relatability of like a guy's guy like you. I don't know that there's that many guys who have
Mm,
the feeling that, you know, you were in the military, you're like living your
mm,
life, you're like
hmm
speaking from a perspective, I think, of what a lot of men won't speak from. And it's
hmm
not trying to just stay in a spiritual realm all the time. It's being very
Yeah,
grounded and real. And this is how, like, you have sections about, you know, pornography and like, you know, all these different things that
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
really
yeah,
what's on a guy's mind. So that's what I mean by
yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. So tell me about these sections before I jump into a handful of them that I want to, you know, just dive into with you. But I
Yeah,
loved your section titles. And I don't usually do this on people's
yeah,
books,
yeah,
but preparations, dancing with fire, transcending the fire.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
they're so beautiful. What inspired those
Thank
to
you.
be? Yeah.
I've for many years I've been framing I've been using this metaphor of relationship as a transformational fire. It's In a way, it's kind of tragic that our intimate relationships have become, for men especially, I think for women too in many ways, surely, but I think for men particularly, intimate relationships have become transformational fires within which the adolescent boy in us, kind of the adolescent psychology that doesn't really serve us as adults, goes to die in a way, so that the adult psychology can emerge. We don't have boyhood to manhood initiation rites of passage anymore, and that's where a lot of that work should be done
Mm,
amongst men. For men, I'm speaking specifically for men in particular, doing whatever and when I say men, I don't mean heterosexual men. I just mean anyone who identifies as a man. We need to gather with other men and have wise elder men helping us find our way into um, a mature expression of our manhood. We don't have that. That doesn't really exist for the vast majority of men on the planet. And so what happens is our intimate relationships become those transformational fires. It's not the right place for it, but that's where it happens these days. Unfortunately, I know a lot of uh, people who are in relationship to men who know what I'm talking about, who really feel that who have experienced the adolescent um, existence
Yeah.
of many men go up. Yep, I recognize that. Wow, he was very. I loved him, but he was very childlike. He didn't want to take responsibility. He didn't want to be committed. He didn't. He resisted relationship all the while. Like all of these things that show up as he still wanted his freedom. Wanted so much space. He said he wanted to be here, but he clearly really didn't. He was checked out into pornography or his work or his hobbies or something. So you'll know what I'm talking about. And
Mhm.
so these chapter titles, though. So coming back to that, so the transformational fires. Because looking back over my own life, I realized that that's exactly what my experience was. Like no one else was initiating me into manhood, so I chose women unconsciously. I chose intimate partners with whom I would burn. It would be so uncomfortable. It would be so like again, I would never have consciously chose that, but my it's like my soul needed that container for transformation. There were no elder men stepping up to help. So women, I guess it's your job. Horrible,
Mm.
horrible, horrible, but that's the way of things. So this book, a guide, the subtitle is a guide for your journey through the transformational fires of love and intimacy. And
Yeah.
as I was reflecting over all of these essays over many years, one of the great questions I had was, well, how do I organize this?
Yeah.
Because I don't just want to. It has to have an arc. There's an arc of a journey here, and I'm thinking of the reader, and I want them to go on this arc of journey that I went on. Um, and so I realized, like this metaphor of the fire, that there was. As I looked at my journey and I looked at all of these essays, I realized, wow, okay, so step one, I was preparing for it. I was preparing. There were a lot of things I was starting to wake up to, right? So there were a lot of practices I started doing while I was single before I met Sylvie, before I really was, it's so easy to study relationship, to think, oh, I'm going to make the best relationship ever next time I'm in one when you're not in it. It's so easy to be optimistic, right? And then you get into a relationship. And that's part two, dancing in the fire. That's part
Mhm.
two of the book. And now I'm dancing in it. And I love the juxtaposition of dancing and fire because fire's hot. It burns. You don't want to dance in it. You want to get the hell out of it as fast as you can.
Mm.
And I think that's what a lot of us do. And when we get into intimate relationship, a few months in, everything's great for the first couple dates, first couple weeks. If you're lucky, the first couple months, and then the shit starts. Then whoa, you didn't tell me about you didn't you didn't tell me this about you on the first date. Who the hell are you? Who am I choosing here? Whoa, why am I so uncomfortable right now? Why am I wanting to run or why am I running? So that's when here comes the fire. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of us want to jump out of the fire because we don't want the transformation. We want to stay the same as we were
Mm.
before. Um, so dancing in the fire and that whole second section is all about that. Okay, now we're in it. Ooh, let's burn. Let's allow all of the stuff to arise. Here it is. Now we're cooking. And what does it mean to just be, be in it? Right. So in that second section, I have chapters like, oh, here's one. Men need safe places to feel angry. I think for one of the first go to emotions for men is anger, because there's power in it.
Yeah.
And it's the only emotion that's really it's men have a we have a strange schizophrenia around anger because we know it's not tolerated. Like it's because it can be dangerous. We've only seen it used to destroy, but it's also the one emotion that we feel safe in a way, like where it's our go-to.
Mhm. You're
So
gonna get
it's a
control and
we get control. Exactly. But what happens when we don't know what to do with it, we usually end up hurting the people we love the most.
mhm.
Right? So there's an essay in here about what we can do to express that anger in safe and constructive ways. That's being in the fire
Yeah.
of our own anger.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, like, anger is not a problem, it's just, how to use it in a way that doesn't harm the person you're with, but,
Exactly.
express it without lashing it out
Exactly.
towards
Or
somebody.
exactly, or harming ourselves by just
Yeah.
swallowing it and pretending it isn't there,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
So, and
Hey,
then
let me
part
back up
3
for
just
one.
to
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, no, please. I'll just finish
Yeah,
the part
do that.
3 transcending the fire. Now we're into, it's like now it's like, okay, we're in the fire. It's actually, I kind of like it. It's kind of warm and toasty. I'm kind of like, okay. It's almost like I'm merging with the fire. I am the fire. So in this section, I'm talking about things about like being with jealousy,
Yeah,
how to beat jealousy, not by making it go away, but by being with it. Talking about now how to navigate these. Here's one chapter titled is "The One Misunderstanding That Routinely Ruins Relationships."
that's one that I wanna get to. I love that one.
Oh, great, great. So
Yep.
that's like, it's how to navigate these differences that arise in almost every relationship that will never go away. So
Mhm.
how do we navigate those? How do we
Yeah.
transcend it? Not make it go away, but learn how to just really be with it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for explaining that. I was reading them and I'm like, I know there was thought behind these because they're
Oh
kind of
yeah.
deep and nice. You said something before. I just want to back up and then I'm going to move forward. But you said that there's this adolescent phase and there's no adult men helping take
Yeah.
the adolescent phase into the more mature version of a man, and you listed things real quick, and I just want to come
Mm,
back to that because I think it's
mm,
really important. You said things like freedom, space, burying yourself in work, saying you're committed but you're not really committed.
mm,
Why I mean those are resistance, right?
mhm.
Why are those part of the adolescent phase and where does that come from?
You know, I in the last few, during the time of our election last year, I think we saw a lot of great examples of men who wanted to save things, save the world, save the election, save democracy, save America, save whatever.
Hmm.
And I was reflecting on that because clearly they weren't saving anything. They were just making things into a bigger shit show.
Mm,
And I remember there's something in adolescent boy psychology. There's an archetype of the hero. And the hero is an adolescent archetype, a masculine. Let's see, how do I say that? An adolescent archetype of masculine expression, the hero. And the hero is only concerned with saving something. And you'll see this a lot in relationships where a man may enter a relationship and he wants to save his partner by fixing her or him for that matter. He wants to save something, right? But see, a man in his mature adult psychology isn't concerned with saving so much as serving. An adult wants to serve
mm,
because it's not about me anymore. The hero is all about me looking big. I want to be the one who saves. I want to be the one who catches the touchdown in the end zone at the end of the game. I want to be, yeah, I remember when I was a boy, I would do this all the time, you know, being on a basketball court all by myself and I'd count down 5, 4, 3, and then he hits the jumper at the last and he wins and the crowd goes wild. Like every boy has played that game in one form or
yeah.
another where he's the one that saves the day.
Yeah.
Um, as adults, we're not worried about if I'm the one who saves. What we're focused on is how do I serve? How do I take
Mm,
responsibility for serving my community, for serving my family, for serving my partner, and myself too? Not one or the other, but how do I serve the whole? And so, in when someone who hasn't made that transition, and that's just one example of kind of the difference between adolescent and adult psychology, but when a man hasn't made that transition. And I find a lot of men, you know, I think I think when men the earliest it seems these days that men start to even be confronted with the limits of their adolescent thinking, adolescent psychology is in their late 30s, right around the age of 40. There's something that happens, and it's often a relationship, an intimate relationship that isn't going the way they want it to, that starts to, but they want, it's one they want to be in,
Mhm.
but it's not going the way they want it to. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, what am I supposed to do now?
Mhm.
That's when all of a sudden the beginning of, whoa, am I really ready to take responsibility for being in a relationship? Take responsibility for example, for how my choices affect my partner.
Yeah.
And in our adolescence, we don't want to take any responsibility. That's that's like your feelings are your fault. Your feelings are your deal. I don't want any responsibility for it. Unless, unless Laura, I can save you from them.
Right.
If I can fix you, if I can just say something and it makes you happy again, oh, then yeah, I'll do that all day long. But if I figure out, and we all do, that no matter what I say, I'm not going to be able to fix you, save you, make you happy, make everything good again, then I'm out. I don't want any responsibility because I don't know what to do with it. And that's, kind of a mark of adolescent psychology in relationship. I'm only in if I can be the savior. If I
Right.
can't, I'm not interested.
Right.
It's too complicated. Don't I, I'd rather I'd rather just go figure out how to make money because that's way easier.
Yeah.
Or, let me go on
Yeah.
an adventure. I is that does that make sense?
100%. And I just sort of like thinking like, wow, we could probably talk about this for the full hour.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
dude, why is intimacy so hard? Why I mean, people say fear, right? Fear of love, fear of
Mm,
vulnerability, fear of commitment, fear of facing their internal
mm,
feelings, fear versus love,
yeah.
like Marianne Williamson, right? You're in the path of
Yeah.
fear, you're in the path of love.
Right.
But intimacy, right? Like so many people struggle to get past and invested, involved, connected to themselves, to
Yeah.
others. Why is this so hard? I mean, we talked a little bit, I know, about it's shutting down, right? In our childhoods, we're not able to express our feelings, we're not able to connect to them. I'm sure that is a big piece of it. But I mean, I guess I'm looking like you've written all of this, you've thought about it for so long. Like if you had to kind of have a coming to Jesus with what it is exactly,
Yeah.
what's at the core of intimacy being such a challenge for so many couples?
So I about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I formulated a map for men called the 5 pillars of a thriving man. And those 5 pillars are purpose, intimacy, brotherhood, family, and spirituality. Now, intimacy is interesting because it's one of those 5 pillars. And when people think of intimacy, naturally the first thing we think of is there's got to be someone else around to have intimacy,
Mm,
right? Intimacy is what I do with someone else.
yeah.
And I think that's the first flaw in our thinking. That's the first mistake we make. Not that that's not true, that we do intimacy with another, but it doesn't begin there. Intimacy, as I formulate it in this model, the 5 pillars of a thriving man, is first it begins with intimacy with self. Intimacy with self. One of the things that we do in men's work when we meet in a group, is we do a check in, which is basically, how are you feeling? What are you feeling? Almost without fail, men, when they start doing that practice, they won't tell you what they're feeling. They'll tell you everything they're thinking. And by the way, a lot of women will do the same.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? Well, I was really nervous for this session today. I had a really rough week. My boss was kind of a dick this week. And so, yeah. So there's very little talk of feeling in what I just said. A lot
Yeah.
of story, a lot of intellectual rumination and storytelling in that. And so I think intimacy. I'll give you a great definition of
Hey, Brian,
intimacy.
real quick for people,
Yeah.
just you gave that version, and so that same person speaking up, what would it sound like if they
Oh,
spoke from feeling, right?
oh yeah,
Because
great.
there's some people out there
I
that are
love
like,
it.
"Well, I think that was feeling. What was wrong with that?"
Yeah, totally. Thank you. That's a great point. So, checking in with what I'm feeling, uh, I feel soreness in my shoulders. I feel hunger. I feel hunger in my belly. I feel sad. I feel tired. I feel angry.
Mm.
Another thing people will do when talking about this is I'm a little angry. I'm a little frustrated. Again, we'll minimize a feeling because, we're measuring it rather than just, I'm angry. Or, and see, likewise, I'm angry because
Yeah, I
now
was just gonna say
we're
the first
gone.
thing. Yeah, the first thing we want to do is go, "Well, why are you angry? What's going on?"
Exact. And now now we're leaving the body. We're no longer being intimate with what's arising. I'll give you a great definition that one of my teachers gave to me years ago. That was really, I mean, it's so simple, but it was profoundly, um, it altered my own experience of intimacy. His name's Steve James. And he said, intimacy is simply feeling what is there to be felt
Yeah,
and seeing what is there to be seen. To take that a little further, one thing he said is intimacy in this definition, it doesn't require consent because I'm not violating you. I'm not moving into your boundaries without your permission. I'm simply feeling what is there to be felt. If there's
yeah,
something that is there to be felt, I'm feeling it. If there's something there to be seen, I'm seeing it.
yeah,
So, like, when I shared earlier, my shoulders, I'm noticing there's tension in my shoulders. I'm noticing that I feel energized. And what's bizarre when I really get intimate with myself is I do feel energized, Laura, and I also feel tired at the
yeah,
same time. I feel both
yeah.
of these things.
And Brian, it's so critical because for myself, at least, it's like that practice for me is curiosity without judgment, right?
Mm,
It's just an awareness without the awareness without thinking gives me the opportunity to be curious about my internal states. Like, oh, I'm wearing a blue and red shirt. I'm feeling a little tension in my chest. Interesting. Right?
totally.
Like that's it. You don't need to narrate. You don't
Yeah,
because the next
that's
thing we
right.
do is, oh, why? What is that? Oh, it's because so and so. And or I have to do something about it, or that's
That's
bad.
right.
Right. And we start to create a sense of right or wrong or
Yeah,
judgment, or it shouldn't be, or it's
that's
somebody's
right.
fault, or what have you. But there's always a problem around feelings. It's not just it is.
Well, like you just said, it also where our program is, I have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And now we're in the problem solving mode. We're in fix it mode. And that connection doesn't happen in fix it mode.
Mm-mm.
We're not connecting in fix it mode. I'm always telling couples, reminding couples that no good solutions come from a state of disconnection.
Yeah.
And if we're not connecting, and connection happens through a shared experience of through a felt experience. It doesn't happen, not an intimacy, between, again, a kind of in a masculine and feminine dance of intimacy. Connection happens through a flow of feeling between us. And if I'm trying to fix you because I can't feel anything, because I'm in my story and I'm just trying to give you solutions to what I think your problem is, well, I mean, I think a lot of us have enough experience to know that doesn't ever go well.
So again, just because I think so many people struggle with this. So
Yeah.
you're sitting with
Yeah. Yeah.
your partner says,
Yeah.
my shoulders are tense, my stomach feels
Yeah.
a little pit. What does the other
Yeah.
person do if they don't fix it? Because
Yeah.
that's that horrible discomfort that
Yeah.
we all learned we needed to do something with or leave,
Yeah.
right? So
Or leave.
right? Like I like,
Yeah.
well, if I can't fix it, then this is really fucking awkward going back to my kid, right? In the bathroom. So I just want to
Yeah.
bolt, right? So what's the solution for people who are new to this or haven't really thought about it, your partner expresses whatever, I'm stressed, I feel anxious, I feel hungry. What do you
Yeah.
what's the next step?
That's a great that's a great and massive question. But
What's the next non-step?
I actually teach a whole practice around this. My I have a online course called the Conflict to Connection program that I did with my spouse Sylvie.
Who
We
I
teach this.
adore.
We teach that. Yeah, she's wonderful. Yeah, we teach this distinction, this practice. But I'll give you the shorthand version of it right now. There's actually, to your point, there's what and this is I learned part of this from the school of nonviolent communication, that there are these ways we normally respond that are not connecting. They're just totally disconnecting. And I won't go into those. There's seven main ones that I won't go into those right now. But what I because I wanted to share with you what can be done instead is um, it's really simple, not easy, but simple. It's acknowledge. First, just acknowledge. Okay, yeah, you're sad. Just being with you're sad. Okay, it's like just I'm with you in it. All right, if you're sad, if you're angry, okay, it's like you're allowed to be angry. It's a way of
Yeah.
saying you're allowed to be angry.
Yeah.
It's okay that you're angry.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Notice it's not you're allowed to be angry. Let's fix it. It's just okay. You're angry. I'm here. I'm here with you. I'm with you in it. I get it. I understand. So acknowledge and reassure. So this two-step response is to just say acknowledge. One of the things that we often get tripped up around, which is why we go into fix it mode, is because we think acknowledging means agreeing with,
Mhm.
and it doesn't. You can
Mm.
acknowledge your partner's feeling without necessarily agreeing with the cause of it.
Mhm. And
That's
what if
why
they're
also,
yeah, what if they're blaming you or that they're it's coming towards you? How do you
well, if
acknowledge?
there's a lot of blame going on in a relationship, I strongly encourage people to work with a therapist or a coach to help break that pattern, because
Yeah.
it's really hard to be with your partner's upset when they're blaming you for it.
Okay.
That's
I just
very
wanted
challenging.
yeah, I wanted to make sure to say that because I don't want people to walk around thinking, "Oh, they're angry and it's coming at me and they're blaming me
Yeah.
for it," and that's okay. It's just like you said this
No.
earlier, so I think it's worth saying being angry is fine. Blaming other
Yeah.
people or directing it at others is where the trouble happens. Yeah.
That's exactly right. When I in that one article, that one essay in the book that I talked about, men need safe places to feel angry. What I'm really pointing at is we need to learn how to express our anger sideways, not at our partners.
Mhm.
I'm working with a man right now who has who in his anger, in his eruption of anger, he calls his partner names.
Mhm.
That is that will destroy the relationship.
Yeah.
But he's not going to just be able to suddenly turn off his anger.
Right.
Like there's there's a lot of momentum going in that anger. So what we're working with him is how to express it sideways. Even if that looks like getting a doll or getting some kind of a toy or something that he can direct his anger at, that he can, when he notices that it's starting to come up at his woman, he can run to another room, he can take himself to another room and curse that doll to high heavens.
Right.
Or one of my favorites is having citrus fruit and around handy and going into the garage or going into the backyard or something and just taking citrus fruit and smashing it into the ground.
Mm.
It's so satisfying for me. That percussive, like, just smash of fruit on ground is so satisfying to my anger. Because anger is looking for a release. I mean,
Yeah.
anger is both protective. My partner just became a threat, and now I'm angry.
Mm.
And if I come at you, obviously I'm only going to do damage with that anger, whether it's verbal, physical, doesn't matter. If I'm coming at you, it never serves.
No.
So that's the first step, is learning how to go sideways with it. And there's all kinds of different tools and practices. But yeah, it's never okay to come at your partner with That's one of the skills that both men and women, we all need to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for explaining
Yeah.
that. So, all right, I got to talk to you about a couple of these. The
Okay.
stages of love. I like,
Mm.
I don't even know what to say, right? Like, that's so
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
good. But
Yeah.
you say the only way to a lasting fulfillment in relationship is by offering my love freely without
Mm.
expecting. And
Mm.
I'm like, dude, I think I'm almost 50. I think I finally almost got this. It's like
Mm.
taken me my whole life, right? It's
Uh-huh. Yeah.
like
Well, I'm
nobody
still working on it too. I know.
Oh my God. I mean, everybody thinks I give my love because and then I get it back, or what did you do with my love, or how are you treating my love? And it's
Yeah.
this whole weird relationship we have to the idea of love, right? So
Yeah.
you talk about these three stages. I need you to love me. I will love
Mm.
myself, and then I am love itself, which is so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to that and what that means to you?
Yeah. Definitely. Um, I first learned of this of a model like this from David Data, the teacher David Data, who wrote the book "The Way of the Superior Man" many years ago. Now I'd come to learn that the model of codependence through to interdependence, another this three-stage model exists throughout sort of psychology and relational dynamics work. What's been so eye-opening for me around these three stages is I can see how I can move through all three stages in less than 60 seconds. Like, for
Mm.
example, my wounded, scared little survival-minded ego, anytime my partner says something that feels remotely threatening to me, my that little part of me that's so terrified I'm gonna die is the first one that comes online. That's the codependent part of me, this first stage codependent part that just doesn't wanna be controlled, but also doesn't wanna be abandoned. It's kind of
Oh,
again, here we are, another shit show.
my God, that's like the worst one, right? You're like, oh my God, I feel controlled, and oh my God, don't leave me, and oh my God, I want to
Exactly.
control you, and it's just this horrible dance.
And you think about it, that's also I mean, that's a natural first stage of any human's evolution. As babies, we're born completely codependent on caretakers to continue showing up for us. Because if they don't, we're dead. We will
Right.
physically be dead. And we learn, through the first 5 to 10 years of our life that okay, I need to be a certain way, or this person they could leave me and I will die. I don't know
Mm,
how to take care of myself, like, literally.
mm,
But most of us, we bring that into our adult relationships because again, we don't typically have a lot of our parents were also adolescent in an extended adolescence. And so they didn't really give us the tools on how to be healthy, functioning, emotionally integrated adults. So we take that codependence into our adult relationships. This is why, the thought of breaking up with someone like in our 20s or 30s is like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm going to die if they leave me or if I leave. Like, it's like death.
yeah.
And it is to some degree a sort of death. You're never going to see this person again. So I don't want to minimize that. It is a death of sorts. But the way our nervous systems react to it, it's very childlike in that I can't let go or I'll die.
Yeah.
I can't be true to myself or I'll die. I can't speak out for what I really want or I'll die.
Mm,
And that's for a lot of people. I mean, we maintain that orientation throughout our entire lives. Now, a lot of our culture, I think, leans in the direction of this stage two work of independence, becoming independent, doing boundaries work. That's the work of independence. Really finding out who am I? Who am I independent of another person? And I remember when I came out of my really a really difficult relationship before I met Sylvie. It was a 5-year relationship, and it was extremely codependent. And I remember coming out of that thinking, I had this sort of my battle cry was, no woman will ever again make me responsible for her happiness, and I won't ever again make a woman responsible for mine. That's the stage two battle cry. I'm independent, you're independent. You take care of you, I'll take care of me.
right.
It's a totally understandable evolutionary step out of codependence. but that doesn't make for a really rich relationship.
No.
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 And that's where this third stage work of interdependent work comes into play. And yeah, I mean, Laura, we could talk for that for hours. We could do a whole episode on that. But this three stages model, which I write about in the book, I'm always, it helps me check in with where am I coming from right now? Am I in this wounded, codependent child right now? And Laura, I go there regularly. I was there
Thanks for
last night.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Like, again, that's
Yeah.
what I love about you. It's like so many people make it seem that we're supposed to evolve past
Yeah.
these things, and it's not. It's like living
No.
with the realities of this
Yeah.
human experience, but
Yeah.
not getting trapped in them, right?
That's
Seeing
it. Just not
alternatives.
getting trapped. You know, learning to stay there for no more than 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then,
Yeah.
whew, okay, having tools and practices to calm myself down, to soothe myself, because my partner can't soothe me when she's also triggered in that moment and she's in her wounded, codependent child. We can't soothe each other,
Oh my God. And
right?
so many people come to each other in that state. And that's when you get those banana fights because it's nobody, there's no adult in the room.
There's no adult in the room. Yes, there's no adult in the room. It's just two kids battling it out and it doesn't go well.
No.
So, yeah. So, having tools. And again, in the book, I offer so many different tools and practices for, okay, bringing the adult back online so that I can then show up. I've learned, for example, Laura, I have learned to, I've apologized in past relationships, but I would always apologize from the wounded child place. I would say I'm sorry because I know if I don't say I'm sorry, mommy's going to leave me.
Right.
Now I've learned to apologize from in that more third stage the integrated place of, okay, wow, I'm sorry, not because I'm afraid you're going to leave me, but I'm sorry because I fucked up and I love you
Mm.
and I'm
Yeah.
in and I'm
Oh,
here. I'm back. I'm here. The adult is here. I comfort you. I apologize for the way that I showed up and we can repair. The magic is in the repair. And so, that this three-stage model has really helped me navigate
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Good intentions are mostly irrelevant when your partner is
Uh,
hurting. I was like,
ah.
bam. It's like,
Uh-huh.
who has
Yeah.
not? Everybody listening, come on.
Yeah.
Who has not been like, oh my God, but that was not my intention. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you're saying because it wasn't my intention. It wasn't my intention. It wasn't my intention. I think I've spent innumerable hours of my life talking about my intentions. But the
Oh, yeah.
reality that I've come to is like, you're hurting. Like, you're hurting. I'm hurting. You're hurting and I'm hurting. So, who, I don't
Yeah.
know. Does it matter what the intention was when you're hurting? I mean, so talk to me about that. I mean, what
Yeah. I think it's a matter of, timing because, of course, intentions matter.
yeah.
But and this goes back to that practice we were talking about earlier, the acknowledging and reassuring. Usually and what I had said earlier about no good solutions come from a state of disconnection. Usually when I'm trying to explain my intentions, it's because my partner's upset and I think I have this delusion that if she just sees what I meant,
Oh my God.
she'll immediately get over her upset.
Immediately.
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 Why wouldn't
Immediate.
she? Why wouldn't
Of
she? Because
course, because
I
I
meant
make perfect sense. And when you
exactly.
see my sense, you're just the whole thing will go away.
Exactly.
Oh, it makes
And that
me nuts.
never happens that way. It
No.
never happens that way because we're disconnected in that moment. My partner's feeling disconnected. And here I am trying to bring her back into connection through some logical bypass of what's going on of she's upset. She's having and here we go. We'll bring it full circle. She's having a feminine expression experience of an emotion that's arising. And I'm trying to meet it with logic, with my logic, with perspective. It's not that I'm wrong, but what I'm doing is not connecting. It's just not connecting. And so what was that? What was that chapter title? Your good intentions are mostly, right, in parentheses, mostly irrelevant when your partner is hurting. And it is mostly because until she feels validated in her upset, until she hears me just say, you know what? I see that that hurt you. I see it. I see it. You're hurting. You're upset. You're angry. And look, this is much easier in a conversation like you and I are having right now than in the actual moment. I get that. That's
Yeah.
why I say this
Yeah.
stuff is simple, not easy,
Yeah.
but it's
Well, because you
until
want to be
sh-
right, right, Brian? I mean, in that moment, you don't want to just validate the person because you're so fixated on being right and like
yeah,
proving yourself. And, there's a whole different mindset. What you said
yeah,
earlier, I just want to remind the audience of is so important in that moment is this idea of, um, the person is hurting and you don't have to agree with what they're telling
yeah,
themselves, but you can't bypass it, right? And that's a really profound detail, but it's kind of like everything's in there. I always feel like, well, if I agree with this, then they're just going to want to do this all the time. And it's setting up some weird,
you know. Oh,
yeah,
totally. And Laura, you said it.
enabling.
There's so much in this because what I'm essentially doing, if I'm not validating, acknowledging her experience right there, and again, it's different from agreeing with, but if the conclusions or the reasons why it's happening, if I'm not validating it, essentially what I'm telling her is, you're crazy. You're crazy to be thinking what you're thinking. And that, so I have two of the distinctions I teach. I teach the sort of the core fears of the masculine and the feminine. The core fear of the masculine is I'm a fuck up. I did it. I did wrong. I did something wrong. It's doing because masculine is all is we could say is our doing nature, and our feminine is our being nature. And to tell someone you're crazy, that is a that is that is like stabbing the core feminine fear that my
Mm,
being is wrong.
right. Shame.
My being is just wrong. That's exactly, it's shame. It's utterly shaming to the feminine aspect of any person. And
Yeah.
so when I'm just immediately meeting with logic, but see, there's the fear there. This is the conundrum because I'm afraid I did something wrong. And that's why you're angry. And I want to show you that I did not do anything wrong because my masculine, that core masculine doing nature of is like, oh shit, she thinks I did something wrong. No, 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 no. I need to show you that I didn't do wrong.
I do this
And
all
she's
the
over
time.
here just thinking, he thinks I'm crazy or she thinks I'm crazy. It's again, it's like we're not even having the same conversation.
No, no.
We're not even arguing over the same thing. And that's why it's so maddening.
Yep.
But once we start to see it now, okay. So it's not that my intentions don't matter because of course they matter. Because if I didn't have good intentions, right, my partner should leave me. Don't ever
Yeah.
stay with someone who doesn't have good intentions.
Yeah.
Why do that? That's horrible.
Right.
But I generally believe in the vast majority of relational experience dynamics, both people have the best of intentions. Nobody goes into a relationship thinking, I can't wait to fuck up this person's life. I'm sure that happens, but it's exceedingly rare. And I think on balance, we all have good intentions, but this bypass of the feminine experience doesn't serve us. It just
Yeah.
keeps us disconnected.
Well, I mean, we could just go and go and go. If
Yeah.
you if you were to pick a takeaway from this book, what's really in your heart that you want the audience to hear, what you feel like,
Yeah.
all these hours of writing and thinking and um I was thinking about like if you were raising a young boy today
Yeah.
or if you met a new couple, which I'm sure you do, what is it that you feel you'd like to leave people with in terms of these relational dynamics that we want love, we want to feel connected, we want the
Yeah.
intimacy to ourselves, we want to feel safe, we want to
Yeah.
feel we've upheld our boundaries, we want to feel respected, all these things people struggle
Yeah.
with so much. What would you say in all of this that your words of wisdom, Brian?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's a perpetual myth that relationships should just be easy. That
Mm,
when you meet the one, it should just work without you having to put in any work. Or there shouldn't be doubts or conflict or disagreements or even any significant discomfort. And it's a really damaging myth because it causes us, men and women alike, regularly to turn away from people, from relationships who could actually help us heal the deep wounds that continue to prevent us from truly thriving in life and in relationships. And this book is essentially a deep dive into what it looks like to go on that journey of really learning how to show up for the challenges of relationship. I say if two people are being honest with each other, relationship's gonna be challenging.
yeah.
It's only easy when you're lying to each other. And that's not my definition of easy. Pretending that everything is okay when it ain't.
Right. Right. It catches up with you for sure.
It catches up. It comes out sideways. It
It does.
there
And you
there
end
is
up
a
being inauthentic. And when you leave the relationship, you realize, wow, I haven't been myself in a long time.
absolutely, and most people are just using what I call the wing it method of relationship. We're just doing what our parents did, or we're doing something in reaction to what our parents did. And our parents, most of us, they didn't really give us good models of relationship to work with. So, most of us, we need new insights, we need new skills, new practices, new understandings about ourselves and about each other. And that's ultimately what this book serves to help people attain.
I love it. I love chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Likewise, Laura.
Yeah, if anybody wants to check out the book, where do they go? Tell us the.
So my website, bryanreeves.com/book. I mean, you'll see it if you just go to my website, but it's Brian with a Y, Reeves, REEVES.com, bryanreeves.com/book. Even if you can order it directly from me while I still have my own copies, but I've now gotten it on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, and it's available around the world and different websites, but you can find it all on bryanreeves.com/book.
And he has great courses with his beautiful partner, who's also been on the
Yeah.
show. You guys could check it out. Boundary work. Just there's a there's a long list. So thank you, Brian, for coming on. I just love chatting with you, and thank you everybody who's been listening. You'll have the information on my website as well, lauraco.com.
And Laura, it's so easy to do this with you. So I so appreciate you. You're a wonderful host, and you ask great questions, and you make this so easy. And you've aptly named your podcast "The Art of Authenticity." Because you rock it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming on.